Hi, this is a class for my friend Marion. She came to visit me recently and was saying, all your classes that are on your YouTube channel are really old. They were like from COVID. And I would love it if you would do another class. And also she said, and they're a bit long, those classes, so maybe a shorter class. So this class is for you, Marion. And I'm gonna do it with like a minimal props. So maybe just have a towel to hand that you could roll and use as like something under your head if you needed it in any poses. Or you could grab your trusty animal. Okay, so please just start lying on your back. And notice what you feel when you get there. So just letting your attention go wherever it wants to go. And slowly begin to settle. Settling your breath. Settling into the support of the ground. And settling your mind. And you might just make note what touches the ground. And also make note what lifts from the ground. Allowing the belly to soften. And so you soften your center. And then soften all the way out to the extremities, into your hands and your feet and your face. Another few breaths like this. And then when you're ready, setting up for a reclining twist. You're going to bring your knees into your body and let the knees drop to one side. And you're opening the other shoulder blade out in the opposite direction. And you might just feel, where's the sweet spot for your head? So you could gently roll your head and just find a place where your head feels most comfortable. There's no strain in your neck. The jaw can be soft. And then as you stay, give up the importance of the shape. So that means that the legs can let loose a little bit. If you needed now the little towel, you could put the towel under your head if you felt you needed it, or you could put the towel between your knees if you felt that that would ease some pressure off your lower back if you needed it. If you wanted to increase sensation, you could cross one leg over the other. This is called twisted roots. It's a variation. And just sense that one lung is opening and how you can breathe into that open space. Another few breaths like this. And then when you feel ready, just untangling yourself from it. And once again, sense the back of your body. Feeling any differences between right and left sides. And then when you feel ready, finding your way into the second side, so the knees will bend, they come into the chest, and you drop that whole unit over to the second side, placing your head wherever it's comfortable. Noticing which lung feels more open and breathing into that piece of lung. Softening your face, your fingers, your feet. If you wanted to change the legs, you could take that twisted roots variation. Feeling for where you can reduce your effort. Last few breaths like this. And then when you're ready, just take your time, slowly unwinding from it, and once again sense the back of yourself. You will set up a pose called Banana Asana. You can start with your legs stretched long, moving the legs to one side, at the bottom corner of your mat, and then sliding the same shoulder of the legs that you've moved in that direction. So say you've gone to the left with your legs, you'd move your left shoulder down towards your left hip, and then open up the right side. So some people like to take their arms overhead. That gets into the shoulder joint a little bit. Some people like their arms resting on their body. Other people like their arms out by their sides. Other variations including crossing the ankles, one side or the other. Whatever you're doing, it's still as if you're lying flat on the ground. So you're not torquing through your pelvis at all. The back of your sacrum is flush to the floor. And as you stay, there's a sense of breathing into the ribs of the lung that's opening. So you're accessing the space that you're creating on the side of your body. Banana Asana, it's called. And like a banana that ripens over time, you're just becoming softer in your own skin. Almost like that overripe banana that's held together purely by its skin. Everything else inside is mushy. So if you like imagery, you can play around with that idea of a ripening banana. Becoming very, very soft, So as a result, you can soften your breath. The last few breaths like this. In your own time, when you're ready, just gently unwind from it. Like we did before, find the midline, find the middle, so that you can sense the back of yourself. And before moving to the second side. So if you're doing this with long legs, go move. Good boy. You take the legs off to the side. You move the same shoulder of this way that you've moved the legs down. That opens the opposite side of the body. And you feel for how you can breathe into this open lung. You can do whatever you want with your arms. The sacrum is flush. The quadricep of the legs relaxes. And you breathe and soften inside your own skin. Last few breaths, this second side of Banana Asana. When you're ready, come back to the middle and sense yourself and feel, how do you now meet the ground? Notice any differences between right and left sides. Notice if there's any difference to lying here now as there was when we first started. How do you now touch the ground? What touches? What lifts? And then as easily as possible, please roll onto your belly. You're just going to very simply roll and turn onto your belly. This is called Sphinx. And so the elbows are underneath your shoulders. If you wanted to roll your towel, you could place it underneath the rib cage here for support. It makes it a little bit more restorative. You can do different things with your head. You could hang your head. And you could keep your eyes at the horizon. If you get into this shape and you find that your lower back isn't very happy, you can also do a variation where you come all the way down and rest your forehead on the backs of your hands. Another alternative is a pose called Seal, which is a little bit more dramatic front body opener. And in that case, you would take your hands a bit wider and come all the way up with the torso. And again, you could hang your head. You could keep your eyes at the horizon line. Other variations to try with Sphinx are to get into the hips a little bit, in which case you could draw up one knee. And this is a pose called Frog Meets Sphinx. So you have a frog leg and a long leg. And again, you're doing whatever you choose with your head. feeling for where you can do less, where you can reduce your muscular work. If you've chosen to do this asymmetrical thing with your legs, you can change the leg and make the other leg a frog leg. And take a few more breaths on the second side, allowing the front of the pelvis to soften into the support of the ground. Letting go of any muscular work in your face that doesn't need to be there. Relaxing the mouth, the tongue, the jaw. Last few breaths like this. And then when you're ready, moving into pose of a child. And so you send the pelvis back towards your heels. You can do whatever you want with your arms. Some people like their arms in front. Other people like their arms back by their feet. You could build a support for your head with your hands. If your bottom and heels don't touch, if there's a gap here and you want to roll the towel and put it between your pelvis and your heels, that could be an option. You can also do this with the knees very wide. So you could have a wide-kneed child's pose. Breathing and softening. Last few breaths like this. And then in your own time, slowly coming up to sitting. And sitting with the soles of your feet together. The feet can be very far away from your body. It doesn't have to be tight and close. So you make this little butterfly shape with your legs. And then just find a way to journey forwards very, very slowly. So it's like when you take a slow walk, you see more. And so you just begin to allow the spinal column to move backwards into the space behind you. The abdomen will soften. You can begin to open the back body, open the back of your neck. Relax your jaw. And then you just feel for, as you come into deeper flexion, you feel for what's called the edge. In Yin Yoga, we have this thing called the edge. And that's where you feel like the body says, oh, okay, that's enough. And so then you just loiter there for a moment or two. Just kind of surfing on that edge. Not wanting anything different, not wanting more. But instead softening and reducing your work. We can always do less. So doing less. How do you do that? The last few breaths like this in butterfly. And in your own time, slowly making your way back up to sitting. And if you have your towel handy, grab your towel. And you're going to take your towel and make it into a short roll. So you're not going to roll your towel lengthwise, you're going to roll it widthwise. And you make a roll with your towel. If you get there and you decide that that's too much, you can always unroll it a little bit. But this is going to go right at the base of your shoulder blades when you recline on your back. So you're going to set back up into a reclining shape. That will go at your bra line. You come into it with bent knees so the back is easy. And you just lean over and relax your head. And again, you can do whatever you want with your legs here. So some people like their legs long. Some people like their feet wide with the knees knocking towards each other. That releases the sacrum a little bit at the back. If you get into this and you feel like there's too much compression through your lumbar spine, you can always tip your pelvis such that the pubic bone moves towards your face more, and that gives you a little bit more length to the back body. You can do whatever you want with your arms out at the sides, or you might want them overhead. That gets into the shoulder joint a bit. Select something that doesn't cause you any strain. Right, so use your breath to tell you. Use your breath like a barometer, right? So the breath is easy, it means the shape is right. If the breath is restricted, or you have to pull hard for the inhalation, or you can sense yourself grabbing the breath, then come away from whatever edge that is. So come into an easier, more comfortable, more sustainable shape. So this is a very gentle front body opener, and you can stay and breathe. We've elevated the chest, we've lifted the lungs. You can take advantage of the new space that's there in the front. And breathing up to your collarbones, softening your belly. And take another few breaths like this. Enjoying this front body opener. And last few breaths here. And then please, in your own time, very gently, nice and slow, you're going to roll to one side and come up to sitting. And take your towel roll, and you're going to change its orientation on your mat such that it's running now vertically. We're going to change this up a little bit. You have your towel running like this. You're going to lift your bottom and sit right on the very end of the towel so it catches the sacrum. And you're going to unroll your spinal column, and maybe the head falls off the back of the towel, or maybe not. That's fine, however it works for you. And so now we've lifted the spinal column from underneath, the length of it, and there's a sense of opening now from midline out. So there's a falling open from the middle. Again, do whatever you like with your legs and arms. But there's this sense of unfurling yourself from midline, uncurling from your midline. So there's a sense of real width that you're cultivating. And you can breathe into the right lung. And you can breathe into the left lung. And you can breathe into both sides. And growing your width. Leaning into the support behind you. Last few breaths like this. And reducing effort everywhere, globally. You can take your perception really wide and feel, oh, I could let go there, I could let go there. I could still let go. Last few breaths here. And very easily, in your own time, take your time, gently rolling to one side and coming up through to sitting. You can slide the towel away. You can make it into a little lift for your skull. You don't need much under the head, but you can make it into a little pillow for your head. And you're just now going to settle in Savasana. And settle into the back of your body. And just lean into the support behind you as you've been doing. Notice what touches the ground now. Notice what lifts from the ground. And just moving your attention around yourself is where your attention goes now, different from when we first started. And do you sense yourself differently? Maybe, maybe not. You just feel. And very gently beginning to lengthen the out breath. And then just a natural in breath. I'm going to guide you through 2 breathing exercises. So this one is called Durga Rechak, and it's an extended exhale breath. You're just lengthening the out breath and a normal inhale. Do this about 5 times, making the exhale long and smooth and subtle, followed by an inhale, whatever your body needs. And just completing the breath that you're on. And now change the patterning. So you're going to extend your inhalation. So breathing in through the nostrils, extend your inhalation, and then just let the breath fall out naturally. Again, you do about 5 breaths this way. Durga Pura, it's an extended inhalation. Making the inhale smooth, subtle, unhurried. And then just letting the exhale fall out. And completing the breath that you're on. And then just breathing normally. And relax as long as you'd like.